Yeah, fluscam.com has links to oxysilver. Also, the affidavit, like you mentioned, is on there. There's a tremendous amount of information. There's counterintelligence propaganda flying everywhere. The National Vaccine Information Center.
Yeah, let's stop right there. That's a good next question. You're believing they're going to release something. Finish up with that. And then let's get into their counter-propaganda, their lies. I see them on the news saying there's no mercury in it, even when they admit down in the article that there is the thimerosal. I see them saying there's not an adjuvant in there. I see them just engaged in unbelievable propaganda.
Okay, now, you mentioned earlier on, and I applaud you and Charlie Sheen for putting this into the release that you guys did on 9/11. You know, remember they said they already reported Building 7 was pulled before it was pulled?
Yes.
Now, this is the same kind of thing. They're reporting that this is going to be a horrific thing before it's a horrific thing. And they're actually, if you look at Ms. Cain's research and my research into the Partnership for New York City, and you have the Rockefeller link to the royalty of Europe, literally, this organization was chartered by the royal family of England. When you understand the Rockefellers are behind everything from New York City Blood Council that put together the New York City Blood Bank that, like Baxter, spread contaminated HIV in the blood supplies. Baxter, of course, put it out in the clotting, theyre Corporation put it out in clotting factor 8, and Baxter put it out in the heparin. HIV, we're talking AIDS. We're talking
again, these are on-record mass killers. They were convicted of that in French courts and didn't even get in trouble worldwide. And it came out in the court documents that Bayer especially knew for 10 years it was in the factor 8 and shipped it out to millions. I mean, they are, again, the history these people have of doing this over and over again, and then we're the weirdos for not trusting them.
Right. So this is why I'm very concerned. I mean, honestly, I think that these people's backs are up against the wall. We've been out there successfully now persuading the public to open their eyes. And so they're really now stuck between a rock and a hard place. They've got to, in essence, produce a pandemic. They've got to show us that they were right all along. And that's what I'm mostly frightened about.
Now, you spoke yesterday, and I want to get you to comment on this, and then Sherry, that, and this is in the UN press releases, we've covered it. It was in documents 3 months ago, and 4 months ago, and this really got going in April, that they have these virus simulants, and they use other terms that are really viruses, that they say they released to prepare people's immunity. I mean, and then they just kind of announced this huge issue like it's no big deal.
Yeah, that was confirmed a couple of weeks ago by the World Health Organization when the propaganda became thick and heavy because they realized that the physicians already, over 50% of the doctors are not going to take it, nor are they going to prescribe it for their patients. So when they needed to promote this flu vaccine, the World Health Organization issued a statement wherein they actually reinforced what I had already reported with you on this show, whereby we said that Dr. James Robertson, the World Health Organization director for influenza, who was in charge of selecting the viruses for the vaccination companies, and that this doctor and Dr. Woods, who he works with, came out and actually said that we're going to release in advance, we're going to seed the population with viruses to, allegedly, they say, enhance our immunity against the pandemic that's forthcoming. So that's what we reported with you, Alex, was that the Mexican flu outbreak was the most likely the seeding, and that this now transition as the virus is going from America to Asia and then to Europe, the Euro-Asia connection. Now you've got Baxter, the most untrustworthy company in the field of pharmaceuticals, is actually spreading spreading avian flu, H5N1, in their H1N1 vaccinations to 18 European laboratories, and they say it's an accident. At the same time, you've got a train that somehow there's an accident in a laboratory, vials blow up inside a box. I mean, it's ridiculous accidents that are happening to
on a train. And remember, this is Baxter with Bayer knowingly shipping out the AIDS product.
Right.
I mean, this is incredible.
It's unbelievable, and there's no mention of this on the mainstream. So we're really looking at absolutely with the the new affidavit. With the affidavit, you've got the definitive proof. You've got all the links that show you that the Rockefeller Trust from the partnerships of New York City is intimately engaged in not only the deception through the mainstream media, but actually engaged in the vaccination, intoxication, and the dissemination of these hideously toxic vaccines.
Now, I want to go back to something, and I want to get your take on it, and then Sherry's take on this. We have confirmed, this is up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, and we're getting more and more of these every hour coming in from Texas and New York and Illinois, healthcare workers, school teachers, people that run daycares, daycare workers, police. They're being called in and they're told, you got to take the regular flu shot, and many of them in the last 2 weeks have already been forced to do it through color of law. They're told it's a new regulation. The Fed said we have to. They don't show them any law. They say we're under level 6. And they say, don't tell anyone we made you do this. I mean, how criminal is that? How obviously underhanded and stinking to high heaven is that? And we now have these documents. In fact, we'll go to InfoWars and punch it up on screen. It's got the document posted in the article, Home Healthcare Workers in New York Required to Get Vaccinated. That's on the main page of InfoWars. You click on it, and here's the letter where they're told, you take this or you're fired. So Obama's saying you don't have to take it, but quietly they're testing to see if they can force the medical workers and police to do it, because if they can force them, then they can try to force the general public.
Yeah, my greatest urging right now is for all the attorneys who have a heart for humanity to advance the temporary restraining orders based on the evidence that we have on the vaccine adjuvants. That alone, the toxicity and the science and the documentation, even congressional records, is enough to say, hey, courts and judges, please stop this right now. And I really am not seeing a lot of heroic attorneys come forward, and the ones that I believe are heroic, I just watch them stalling and stammering and debating whether or not they should do, X, Y, Z. Gee whiz, we're running out of time.
Well, even if you're for taking all these poisons from Baxter and Bayer, who knowingly ship out HIV-filled factor 8, killing people in mass on record. I mean, we can pull up the MSNBC report. I mean, this is not us just saying this. I wouldn't dare come out and just say that about Bayer or Baxter if it wasn't in the news. I get emails saying I'm making it up. No, these companies admittedly do this, and then now we're going to trust their vaccine that the squalene alone, the Army admits they suspended the anthrax campaign because it was killing the troops.
Right, and it's more concentrated in this, according to the reports that I've been reading.
And Alex, I also want to add that Baxter is in partnership with CSL, which is basically the Australian pharmaceutical company that is connected with Rupert Murdoch's Research Institute. That's Murdoch Children's Research Institute that is actually conducting swine flu trials on babies and children up to 8 years old.
And pregnant women.
And it's actually being, there's a class action suit against Baxter and CSL right now. There's a hospital, a small hospital, that is suing them because they are restricting the blood supply that the hospital has. And so what that means is it's all connected dots. I mean,
well, these companies connect back to New York, because I had the doctors involved who were in the prisons. Remember back in the late 80s, they banned prisoners giving blood, but in Arkansas, Clinton would ship it out to New York, then to Toronto, and then to these companies filled with HIV. People they knew had AIDS and hepatitis were allowed to give. They do this because they're eugenicists.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I want to reinforce the American Red Double Cross. The American Red Cross was created by the Rockefeller brothers. They first started the Blood Council of the city of New York that then gave rise to the American Red Cross. So what we're really witnessing when we give blood to these demons, we're really allowing them, they're using our blood to transmit disease so that their drug industrialists can make vast fortunes off of humanity's suffering.
This is just hard to deal with, knowing the facts and seeing how diabolical this is. Dr. Horowitz, from studying how they've done things in the past, you predicted the anthrax attack successfully with total precision and said it would be through the mail because you saw their studies on it. Looking at other studies they've done with dark winter and other flu, pandemic scenarios for martial law lockdowns. How do you, in your crystal ball, see them releasing something? What areas of the country? How would they do it? What should police that are waking up, that are compartmentalized, what should they be on the lookout for?
Well, I think Los Angeles is the highest likely place that a Central Intelligence Agency, because Rockefeller controls CIA, and CIA is on top of all the infectious disease organizations. That's according to their own documentation. They see infectious disease as a national security risk. So CIA oversees NIAID. Dr. Fauci, he's a puppet of CIA. So we're looking at, if you read the book Death in the Air, Globalism, Terrorism, and Toxic Warfare, like I said yesterday on the show, I came out with the title long before September 11th.